Hi, I'm Herson Borrero, City and State TV, and on this trip to Cuba, there are many people that are forming part, that are traveling to Cuba for various reasons. Among them, there is a poet from New York, from the Bronx. Her name is Mariposa, known to Mariposa, her performing name. And Mariposa, first of all, what does you as a butterfly want to go and fly all the way to Cuba after being this experience of New York? What compels you to go to Cuba? Have you been there before, or is this the first time?
This is my first time going to Cuba, and it's a lifelong dream of mine. I've always dreamed of going to Cuba. I can't wait to go and walk the same footsteps that Jose Marti and Julia de Burgos walked. And as a Bronx Puerto Rican, as a proud Bronx Puerto Rican, Nuyorican, and poet who I grew up not knowing my own culture as a Puerto Rican, not knowing anything about Puerto Rico and having to discover my history and my roots and reclaim it. And, I learned about Julia de Burgos for the first time in my life when I was in my early 20s. And at that time, I was already writing and calling myself a poet. So for me, this is a time to claim another part of our history as Puerto Ricans, and that is our relationship to Cubans. And that relationship of the struggle for independence and for freedom, and how the Puerto Rican flag it mirrors the Cuban flag, and how we've always been brothers and sisters in the same struggle.
And the poem that says que Cuba y Puerto Rico son de un pájaro las dos alas, so they're the wings of the same bird. You mentioned Julia de Burgos, the great Puerto Rican poet who lived in New York, who actually, unfortunately died in the streets of New York, of El Barrio. And you mentioned Jose Marti, a Cuban liberator who also lived in New York. There's always a connection to New York. So, and he was also a poet and a writer and a columnist. Do you have in you already, is that voice of poetry already inside you? Do you already have a preconceived idea of what you're going to write about? Because I know you're going to have poems coming out of you just inspired. Is there one already inside Mariposa?
Well, there's a poem that I wrote many years ago called Tears of the Tigers, and it was inspired by a song that was written by a Cubano composer, Panchito Risset, that talks about the story of the migration in the 40s of Puerto Ricans from La Isla here to New York Harbor, and that they came on the SS Marine Tiger, which was a U.S. naval warship. And when they arrived here, they were labeled Jíbaros and Marintallas in that derogatory form. And there's a poem that I really want to go and find, if I could find the original recording, like the record. Some people are on a mission to maybe buy a beautiful piece of art in a gallery in Havana, and I'll be on the lookout for things like that too, but I'm also interested in the music. I'm interested in that history. And so I wrote this poem many years ago about that story that was inspired by the hook of his poem that goes, of his song by Panchito Risset, that goes, Marintaya, Marintaya, mis hermanos me llaman así, me ven pobre, me ven triste y toditos se ríen de mí. No me importa que me llaman así, Puerto Rico no tiene bandera, ay bendito que será de mí. So what he was saying was, in that time, that was a metaphor that Puerto Rico, of course, did have a flag at that time in the 40s, but you can be arrested at that time for waving the flag in Puerto Rico, and many people were, especially if it was raised without the American flag alongside.
Which is part of La Mordaza that recently Nelson Dennis referred to, War Against All Puerto Ricans, a book he had. We interviewed him about that. So you also should read that book. But you're going to Cuba. So you're going to Cuba as a poet. I know you're going to be inspired in poetry. So first time to Cuba, is there, in other words, you're looking for the beauty, the history, and the people.
And I'm going as an educator because I have my master's in bilingual special education. I have an education background, and currently I am a community school coordinator in El Barrio and a part of this new community school initiative in New York City. I'm going independently as an artist, as a poet, as an educator, as a socially conscious person. However, I think it's interesting that our trip precedes Governor Cuomo's trip, and I get to talk to everybody in the schools and the teachers and let them know exactly what Cuomo is intending to do with free education here, that he's targeting public education here, and that he's seeking to privatize education because he just wants charter schools, and basically that our schools are on his hit list, our failing schools. And rather than him keeping his promises and giving schools the resources and the monies that they need to be successful, okay? So I just think it's a really exciting time to go to Cuba. Right
So you're sort of going to preview Governor Cuomo's trip and let them know who they're dealing with?
Let them know. Mariposa is going to let them know what time it is. So maybe they'll have a more interesting conversations with Governor Cuomo, you know?
For City and State TV, Gerson Borrero. We're going to continue with our interviews. Gracias, Mariposa. Enjoy Cuba. Say hello to our Cuban brothers. And we're going to have Jonathan Lenz also from City and State being there. We're going to be reporting on it. So, mucha felicidad.
Que viva Cuba libre.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you, Mariposa. Best of luck. We'll continue with our interviews at City and State TV. I'm Gerson Borrero. We'll be right back. Governor Cuomo, that wasn't planned, man. They're gunning for you.